Hello, it's Sarah from Hardcover Hearts, and I'm here for our week 4 check-in of The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. So this is the fourth week that we're doing this. We have 2 more to go, and then we've completed the book just in time for the new release of the movie. I'm doing this in collaboration and partnership with Juan of Just Juan Reader, and we have a group on Voxer, and then we're creating these small check-in videos so that we can open it up to anyone who wants to check in and participate with us. Don't feel that you have to keep the exact same schedule we are. If you read this at a later date and you'd like to leave a comment about this section, feel free. We would love to have continued participation even beyond the schedule. So let's get started. Allow me to say again, please, if you are going to read this and you don't want anything spoiled, you should not watch this video. Pause it, come back to it later after you've read it. That will be the best thing to do, because we're going to do a deep dive. Okay, so let's get into it. This chapter 9, is everything a possibility. All of a sudden, the chapter opens and there's a time leap. 8 years has passed and we are introduced to postgraduate Theo. And he is working for Hobie. So immediately my spirits are lifted, because I think, yes, he's obviously in a healthy environment. He's feeling grounded. Things are working out for him. He's surrounded by a loving and caring environment. This is going to be great. As he's walking down a street, all of a sudden he passes someone who calls his name, and he looks, and it's Platt Barber. Now, Platt was the oldest of the 4 Barber children. He was a bully. He was like the perfect child. He got in trouble for something and got shipped off, but he was incredibly horrible to Andy, who was, if you remember, Theo's best friend in elementary school, and really the friend that and the reason that he was sent to the Barbers after the bombing, where he lost his mother. So there he's looking at Platt, seeing him disheveled, seeing him looking really not at all what he expected, and he asks how everyone's doing, and he finds out that Andy and Mr. Barber have been killed, and they died in a boating accident. And the way Donna Tartt writes that is so well done. You get that feeling of the gut punch that you get, and immediately he is overwhelmed with sadness and regret. And because he all along since he returned to New York, meant to contact Andy, and he didn't. He kept putting it off. They go for drinks, and then Platt says, "Oh, come and see Mom. She'd love to see you." So he gets kind of gently coerced into going back to the Barbers. And as he's walking in the Barbers, he's taken into a different part of the apartment that he never had access to when he lived there before, and that is Mr. and Mrs. Barber's room. And he does this scan, and he looks at, and he sees all of the art, and you realize, oh, he's got an eye now, and there's a little bit of the, I don't know, if vulture is the right word, but he's appraising as he's looking. This is all information he's scanning in. And he notices a chair, and this is a chair that his mother sat in. So immediately he has all of these recollections and feelings, and this motherly vibe that's happening, and memories, and it's all conflagrating at the same moment. Mrs. Barber is in bed. She's got her bed coat on, and she was knitting, I think, or doing some kind of sewing. And she's very happy to see him. And you could tell some of the edge, some of the coldness has been dissipated through the death of her son and of her husband. And I think that there's a warming between the two of them. And I think it's good for Theo to be there and to see her. And I think it gives him something, because he hasn't really had a mother figure in his life. I mean, Sandra was not it. So we leave that scene, and we get a different scene in a new character, and this is Lucius Reeve, another great name. And Lucius Reeve, we find out, is someone that Theo has scammed. And we find out that no, Theo has not done the right thing these past 8 years. If anything, he's done worse. He has gone to the warehouse where Hobby has been sending all of the works that he's done, the restoration pieces, all of the things that he's built. He's sent to this warehouse, and he never really goes to it. So Theo has been selling stuff out of the warehouse, but calling them priceless and inflating their value, inflating their importance, and really ripping people off. And he has all sorts of techniques of how to do this, and he's learning how to read people, how to read who they think they are, not who they are, so that he can speak to that person and sell to that person. So it's you get the sense that Theo is actually becoming more like his father than he is like his mother, despite being in New York, back in his mother's beloved city. What we see with Lucius is it's very unclear who's trapped whom, because Lucius knows something about Theo, and Theo has in the past apparently has gotten caught, but found a way to get out of it. And the way he gets out of it is he pays them back with interest, or with a little more. So it ends up being this no harm, no foul. You've made a little money. I'm so sorry. I'm new. I didn't know. I didn't realize. You're absolutely right. Well, this isn't working with him. With Reeve, it's he tries to write him a check, but Reeve will not cash it, and this is making Theo very uncomfortable because he can't figure out what does Reeve want. He's so shaken that he goes off, and we start to understand a little bit about how he's been dealing with life, and it's not good. He has reverted into straight up pill popping, and ironically he blames it on Xandra, even though Mrs. Barber is the first one who gave him pills to help him with his anxiety and help him sleep and help her family sleep while he was staying with them. And then his father gave him pills as well to help with the airplane, and then allowed this kind of reckless, laissez-faire fatherhood responsibilities when they were in Vegas, where Theo was basically drunk and drugged up almost the entire time. So interesting that he chooses to blame the person that is no longer in his life at all and has no relation to him or pull on him. So we see that he's a natural scam artist. He's developed all these tools and techniques, all these ways of being, and it's very sad. It's very sad. You see that he has succumbed to this. This is who he is. He's also sleeping with multiple women. These are women that are really unavailable to him. They either have boyfriends, one is even engaged to be married. While he's still convinced that he's in love with Pippa. And he even knows that these women are stand-ins for Pippa. He even acknowledges that his relationship and his feelings about Pippa are confused based on the proximity to what happened to his mother. He even has said it a few times in passages. But Pippa comes to visit, and she brings her boyfriend that they're living together in London. And of course, Theo hates him. Theo absolutely hates him and is stunned. He's hurt. He's stunned. He didn't know he existed. and he ends up going to the barber's, and Kitsy's there. And Kitsy's beautiful and is very indulgent toward him and very apologetic. And she says, "We were awful to you," and it's almost as if she wants to make amends, and she tries to be a better person and to get on his better side. And she's immediately he does a comparison between her and Pippa. At one point he says she drinks white wine, whereas Pippa drinks red. So you immediately see that he's kind of honing in on her as a means of substituting Pippa. And it also seems like he's spending time with Kitsy as a means to, or at least this is my interpretation, as a means to appease and make Mrs. Barber feel a little better. So Mrs. Barber seems to be happy when he's around because he reminds her of Andy. And he talks about it's the first time he's been able to do a kindness. And so this is very interesting. You're starting to see some of his warped associations in his mind. And it is around this time also where we fully get a visual of exactly what he's doing in terms of his drug use. And the way Donna Tartt writes about addiction is so insightful and so good. She talks about how he thinks he doesn't have a habit because he has a 1 day on, 1 day off regimen, even though he will even admit that the 1 day off isn't really a full day. He has a full on pack in the back of his closet that it's like a kick pack. And so he's going to use it if he ever needs to kick and if he ever needs to stop doing the drugs. And it's full of all the things that he thinks he might need should he have to stop cold turkey. He's also stayed away from the storage facility. So he only goes back to pay and to make sure it's still there. And he shows up once a year, one time every 2 years to pay and re-up. He gets a call from Platt, and Platt apparently is in some trouble. Go figure. And Platt wants him, says, "Hey, I understand that you sell antiques. How about you come up with me to the main house, and don't tell Mom or anything, but we'll just sell some things that aren't real, that she'll never know she's missing them." And all of a sudden, Theo has a choice. He could find out what's going on and really protect Mrs. Barber from her son who's going to rip her off. Or, and this is what he does, he realizes he has an out with Reeves. He could leverage this to his benefit by actually faking some provenance that the Barbers actually owned the piece that he sold to Reeve. So you see that he's actually doubling down on the scammer and by joining forces with Platt, who's also a scammer. It's a corruption of moral magnitudes that is very, very hard to read. So he meets up with Reeve and he thinks he's got his escape now. And so he's feeling kind of cocky. He has Reeve come to his place. He sets it up, is his spot that he wants to meet him. He sets it up so that he has the advantage. And he finally figures out what Reeve wants. What Reeve wants is the painting, because Reeve has figured out that Theo was actually in the actual room where the painting was because of the ring. So Hobby has told a lot of people that how he became involved with Theo, his new partner, is that Theo was with Welty when he died, and Welty gave him the ring, and so it's almost as if Welty has passed on the torch onto Theo, and it was divine intervention. It was meant to be this partnership. Well, this has gone around, and enough people have heard it that he was able to know that Reeve was able to know that Welty died in this room where the painting was, and the painting has been stolen. And so all of a sudden, Theo is just in absolute panic, trying to stay cool, deny everything. He starts to refer back to some of his father's more loathsome lessons about how to get out of situations of your own making. And then Reeve takes it a next step and says, "And I know you're using that painting with drug cartels, and I know you're using it as collateral. I want to buy it from you. I want that painting, and this is what I offer." And at that point, he feels that there's enough things that don't make sense that he can laugh it off. And so he just goes into this whole routine of laughing, thinking this is just ridiculous. Because he knows where the painting is. It's in his storage locker, right? So But he does realize, he is pushed and recognizes that he's got to come clean with Hobby because Reeve is going to out him. And, the world just doesn't deserve Hobby. Hobby is just one of the best characters in literature. He listens, he's upset, but he blames himself because he says, a lot of this is my fault. I shouldn't have let you alone. I should have known and been in charge of what was happening in the warehouse. I got us into a situation that you felt you needed to do this. And he had all of these reasons why he let Theo down, as opposed to the opposite being true. Theo never came fully clean. He only admitted to just enough to have Hobby understand what he's done, but not really come clean. And Hobby wants him to contact all of the people that he ripped off and to offer them money back. Now, this is impossible because he's been doing it for years and it's so far in the hole that money doesn't exist anymore. So it's really a sad state that Hobby forgives him, says, I'm not mad at you, I just need to be alone, and he continues to work. Theo. So the next is chapter 10 is called The Idiot. I think you know who that is. So we're jumping ahead a few months, and all of a sudden it's Christmas, and Kitsy and Theo are doing registry shopping at different department stores on Fifth Avenue and looking at China patterns and all of these things that are tedious at the best of times. And Theo just does not have the patience or wherewithal to care about any of this. He's sober, so he did end up quitting drugs. But you can tell that he's not happy, and you could tell that he's not sure what he's doing, or maybe he does, but he doesn't know how to get out of it. Things are spinning really fast now because he's being forced into a spotlight with people, engagement parties, and all of these things that are happening around him. And he hears that he is being followed by some mysterious people who have come looking for him. So one of the gentlemen that works with Hobie and their company and moving everything has said, hey, is something going on? Do we need to be worried? Do we need to look out for anything? We think someone's following you. And then Reeve reaches out via a postcard that Hobie sees. And that just amplifies the panic and the anxiety that Theo thinks about. And he can't handle it. He doesn't have the tools. He's an addict, and that has always been, escape has always been how he handled everything. And he's yet to learn how to truly face what he's done. So he goes to the Lower East Side, and he's going to throw the sobriety out the window. He's looking to score, and he knows that's what he's going to do. He's not fooling himself. He's fully committed. So he goes down to Tompkins Square Park, and who runs into him but Boris? And you see Boris, you know he's there, he's with some woman, something's going on, he's at a bar, he has the woman take him to a different bar a few blocks away and says, wait for me. When he finally arrives a few hours later, much to Theo's annoyance, he has just crazy stories of what he's been doing and where he's been and all of these things. In the time that they haven't seen each other. So it's all of a sudden back to, we see the path that could have happened had Theo stayed in Vegas, potentially. And it's grim. It's not very good. Yes, he's got money, but who knows, he's obviously involved in illegal work. He already has a wife and 2 children that he's estranged from, 3 children, twins and a child he's never met yet. And Theo just wants to get out. He's tired of being in this bar. He wants to go. He wants to show Boris something. And Boris is very wary, and he does not want to leave. You could tell there's anxiety, that now the anxiety is transferred over to Boris, and he's like, well, where do you want to go? He's asking questions. He's putting these restrictions on it, and finally agrees, but only if he can have his driver drive. He's got a driver. And that's where we end this section. So it's very interesting. A lot of things happen and a lot of psychological things. So I would love to know, what did you think about this? Did you feel that this is inevitable? Juan talks a little bit in his video about the inevitability and fate. Was Theo always meant to be a bad seed because his father's influence was just too strong, or his mother didn't have enough time to imprint her style and her goodness on him? I would love to know your thoughts. And did I miss anything? Is there anything of substance or a theme that you saw that I didn't? So please feel free to leave your comments below. And next check-in we'll read up until chapter 11, and we'll check in next week. Thank you so much. Look forward to talking to you then. Bye.